Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of the Netsphere podcast. In this one, I have a really insightful conversation with Johnathon Zamora, an e-commerce email marketer that's generated 10 million and above for Shopify clients. And we don't just talk about email marketing, we talk about business in general, crypto, so many things. It was so fun and I'm sure you guys are gonna love it. Now, before we begin, I do wanna mention one thing. We actually did this podcast live for Netsphere Tier 2 members. As you guys may know, we have a Discord server called Netsphere and there's an exclusive lounge within there that is paid. And one of the perks is that you get to listen in on these conversations live every single week. So we're doing these every Thursday morning. And if you want to sign up, all you have to do is go to the link in the description, click on Netsphere Tier 2 here where it says learn more, and then you just have to sign up. It's $29 a month. You can also pay for a yearly membership for a cheaper price. And I would love to see some of you guys in there if you're a great fit. But if not, that's fine too. Hope you guys enjoy the interview and subscribe to the channel for more. Welcome everybody, whoever's watching. This is a pretty unofficial podcast here, but it's going to be an amazing one. We got Johnathon Zamora. You've seen him before. Welcome, Johnathon.
Thank you, man. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, and we're going to talk about a lot of different things. We got a lot of different topics to discuss. Obviously, if you have any questions about anything, just go ahead and drop them in the Tier 2 Discord and we'll get to them. Email marketing, Shopify, anything really. We'll answer whatever questions. But yeah, so I'm excited to have you here, Johnathon. What have you been up to lately?
Oh man, just finished a move about 2 weeks ago, so that's been good. Still just getting settled in. Been focused on growing at the company, so that's been a ton of fun. But obviously takes a lot of time and energy. And then besides that, I'm just excited for this podcast, man. We have a lot of topics to talk about. I kind of want to just dive straight into it. So
go for it.
You have one that I think is really interesting, and I was kind of curious on what it meant. You
Sure.
said more big brands running ads. Recession? Question mark.
Yeah. So
what
what he's talking about is we made some topic lists, or like a list of topics, and that's what one of mine I wrote down. So basically what that means is I've been seeing a lot of big brands running ads, and to me, I'm not sure if this is accurate. I have no data to back this up, but to me it feels like that's a sign of a recession. I don't know, because you always hear the thing of okay, Lamborghini doesn't run any ads because their target demographics not on social media, and a lot of brands kind of resonate with that, some luxury brands. But lately, right, I've been seeing so many different ads for luxury brands, plastic surgeons, just a whole bunch of shit. And
where are you seeing these ads?
On Instagram stories, on TikTok, mainly Instagram stories though. So to me, that's kind of a sign of a recession. But on the other hand, it's also good because obviously, I have a paid ad agency. So I'm nice. This means that it's all fair game. We can, work with some pretty crazy brands because chances are they're not doing things in an optimized way, right? Chances are they're just blowing money in the wind and just hoping for the best. But yeah, man, so that's kind of what that means. I don't know if you have, what are you seeing on the email marketing end? Is that pretty just consistent? There's not really any issues?
Well, yeah, I mean, email's thankfully something that doesn't evolve too quickly, which I love, because it just allows me to build a system and create a repeatable process that I could use over and over again. But I think we are technically in a recession now, right? That's the kind of the official term.
Yeah, I think actually July 1st was the first official day of the recession.
Yeah, which drove me crazy because in May I made a tweet and it got no likes, nothing, and I got my friends were giving me shit about it because they're the tweet was I said July 1st is going to be the first official day that is considered a recession because all it takes is two quarters of lower GDP. That's all it takes. And quarter one already clocked in at lower GDP. And so I was like, July 1st, once it comes around, there's going to be a massive amount of media that is pushing, saying that it's a recession. And that's going to cause a lot of fear, uncertainty, doubt. Mm-hmm. And, came out. And I think that paired with, obviously bigger brands that are advertising, I think that's kind of an indicator that maybe they're slowing down. I saw a picture on social today, actually, that was of an Amazon warehouse, and it was all the Amazon warehouse people just sitting down and hanging out because they didn't have enough orders.
Oh my God.
I was like, that's insane. So you pair those two things with the CPI report that came out, I think, was that yesterday that it came out?
I think so, yeah.
And so, yeah, the CPI report is basically, it's just a report that comes out and says, okay, how much are people spending? And then what's kind of like the rate of inflation that we're seeing in different categories. And I have some statistics here that I thought were pretty interesting. So this is the increase in prices that we've seen in the last 12 months. I just want to get your thoughts on
Yeah.
percent. Airlines are up 41%.
In
Eggs are up
price?
30. Yeah, in price. Eggs
Wow.
are up 33%, chicken up 18.6%, and then milk is up 16.4. Isn't that insane? Like,
That's
what?
crazy, bro.
I feel like we're seeing it everywhere. Like, you can't get away from these like increased. So like the inflation came in at, I believe, 9.1%. And so that's like roughly a 1.5% annual or monthly rate. And that's what we're supposed to see annually. And we're seeing
Yeah.
it on a month to month basis. It's insane.
That is insane. And it almost makes me feel like these companies that are, airlines, for example, 41%, like that's crazy. Is that because people are not flying? So they have to like, 'cause I don't know that sounds weird because it goes totally against like supply and demand, right? Like if there's too many people flying, the prices should go up, right? But like if there's not enough people flying and the prices go up, that sounds really dumb. Like that just sounds
Right.
like a easy way to get even less customers. Or maybe they just like are getting away with it. That's another thing that I've thought about is like maybe people are just raising their prices. They're seeing like, you know what? People are getting used to inflation. Maybe we need to raise our prices too, and like taking it as an opportunity to raise prices. What do you think about that?
Well, I agree. Well, I think with the airlines, it makes the most sense for that to increase pretty drastically just because the gas prices are insane right now. I mean, I don't know what prices they are over there, but last time I checked, to be honest, I don't this is gonna sound like a dick thing to say, but I don't usually look whenever I pay because like what am I gonna do? Not fill up my car? But last time I like paid attention, it was like $4.50 for a gallon of gas, which is nuts. So
That's
it
pretty
makes
good,
sense.
actually. Like compared to some of the shit I've seen on like Twitter and like Cali, they got like $6 tanks of gas, or gallons of gas. It's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, a tank would be great. But yeah, gallon's insane. So I think it makes sense for the airlines to increase just because they obviously use a ton of gas in order to travel. But yeah, I think whoever kind of popped the bubble on being like, you know what, we're going to increase prices and blame it on inflation. It's such a good excuse, because if
Yeah.
you're a company that's like Chipotle and you want to increase your prices and everybody else is doing it, why not tack on a couple extra dollars? I mean, that just helps the bottom line.
Right. Man, that's interesting. How do you think that's going to affect e-com in general? Because like you mainly, like you almost like actually 100% work with e-com brands, right?
Yeah, we 100% only work with direct consumer brands. Honestly, for me it's too early to say. We haven't seen too much of a shift at the
Yeah.
moment, which has been a good thing. But I will say one of the big things that we're starting to see is the smaller brands are having a hard time kind of breaking through on the market. And that could be kind of a testament to the fact that these bigger brands are coming in and buying up a lot of that media space on Facebook and Instagram and TikTok. And so some of these smaller players are kind of getting washed out. The people that we work with that are doing $2 million a month, they're doing fine. I haven't really seen any differences, but the people that are doing like 30K, 40K, like they're like struggling, and a lot of them are
Yeah.
talking about increased prices on ads.
Yeah, that makes sense, man. That's kind of sad. Like the rich get richer, bro. Like that's crazy.
Do you have a game plan heading into this? Because I think we can all kind of agree that there's most likely going to be a relatively decent recession. I mean, we're due for one at this
Yeah.
point. Do you have a game plan heading into it on how you're gonna try to handle your business, your personal finances? Have you thought about it or not
No, yeah,
really?
I've definitely thought about it. And I mean, I'm just not really investing a lot. I'm just mainly, as far as cash goes, I'm really just trying to focus on cash flow, focusing on saving up some money so that when the right opportunity presents itself, I'm ready to pounce on it. However, at the same time, I don't know. I tend to be like pretty skeptical about a lot of things, and
Right.
even this recession, I'm kind of like, okay, everybody's freaking out. Is it gonna be that bad? I don't know. So I'm still averaging in like little by little, like not a
Mm.
lot of money, but I don't want to like just completely miss the boat. Let's say if like things do just go back up, because that's the thing too with inflation, right? Like asset prices should also rise or continue
You-
to rise, right? So
right.
like the way I think of it is like, okay, maybe this is just like a premature like recession, like maybe the big recession is gonna come in like 5-10 years, and like we still have a long way up. Obviously I have no idea what's actually gonna happen, but like in both scenarios, I'm just trying to be safe in both scenarios. So averaging
Yeah.
into things right now, but also just saving most of my money. And cash is trash was like a big thing a year ago, and now everybody's like, damn, cash is actually kind of fire.
Yeah, 100%. Dude, I totally agree. I mean, there's that like super well-known saying, which is like, be fearful when people are greedy and be greedy when people are fearful. And we're seeing a lot of fear right now. So I kind of have that same feeling where it's like, okay, if there's ever a time for me to be investing, it would be now. But whenever I started seeing inflation peak up, I'm like, okay, well, I want to protect myself from inflation. Obviously, the assets will go up. Like S&P 500 has to go up at least a decent amount if everything's getting more expensive. So I put like a ton of my money into stocks because I'm like, that'll be the best way to protect it.
Yeah.
And guess how much I've lost in the last 6 months in my stock portfolio.
Oh God. Oh shit. I don't know, like 50, 100K.
130,000.
Jesus, bro. That's crazy.
And I'm only invested in the S&P 500 and Apple, and that's it. And like 10% of my portfolio is Apple.
And it's down that, I mean, that's crazy. That's like
Hefty.
how down bad I am, but I was like crypto, like all in on
Right.
crypto. So that kind of makes sense, right? But
Yeah.
S&P 500, like that's wild, man.
Brutal. I want to talk to you about crypto, but I've been thinking a lot about like, okay, what's my game plan on how I'm going to attempt to handle
Yeah.
inflation? Because anybody that's like sub like 25, 30, we didn't really handle the last recession because a lot of us were just like kids into 2007, 2008. So I've been trying to figure out like, okay, what's my game plan? Because I want to
Mm-hmm.
make sure that I'm averaging in and still taking advantage of the opportunity, but I
Mm-hmm.
also don't want to expose myself to too much risk. One of my favorite quotes that I always think about is I heard it from Ed Milet. He said, I know a lot more people that used to be rich than currently are." And
Wow.
that quote had me fucked up because when I heard that, I'm like, man, like I don't want to be that person that goes and does pretty well in his early 20s, and
Mm-hmm.
then later on when I'm 40, I'm working at Verizon Wireless or something, because I made I made too many bets. And so I've been trying to think about like how do I manage the risk for myself, and I kind of boiled it down to 3 steps. For me, the first step that I was focusing on is just doubling down on driving income because
Mm-hmm.
right now it seems like cash is like the most important thing for just fueling your finances. The second thing that I'm doing is I'm just cutting down on as much risk as possible. So for example, I had a margin loan against my stock portfolio for $80,000, and
Whoa.
in the last couple months I've been paying that back so that way I don't have any risk on that end.
Mm-hmm.
And that's also nice because margin loans are really, really low interest. I think it's like 3.5% right now. I'm sure that'll go up as the Fed continues to increase their rates. But I paid that back. So that's the second thing. And then the third thing is just being focused on expansion. While everybody else is kind of contracting, I want to
Yeah.
do my best to just expand and take up market share because I feel like when you look at the companies that have came out of recessions, it's some of the biggest companies that we know. And so if you want to like be a big company, you kind of have to, go into it head first and just be like, you know what, I'm gonna make this happen.
That's so true, bro. And that's why, man, that's why I'm happy that you're here and talking, because like I think more people need to like remember that these are the best times to like build something. Like these are the times
Yeah.
to build, not
Right.
whenever, not when the hype is like already at its peak. This is like the best time, so that when the hype comes back, you're like in the perfect position to like really blow up. So man, that's super, that's really insightful. And you're playing the big boy business game, bro. You're taking out loans against your stocks. Like, damn, I didn't know you were doing that.
Yeah. So what I did to the reason I did that is because I had an opportunity to do a hard money loan. Do you know what those are?
No, I actually
No.
don't.
So a hard money loan is essentially a short-term loan that some people will take in order to buy real estate typically.
Mm,
And so the reason that people will take out hard money loans is let's just say that you're flipping a house, and you buy the house in cash, but you need an extra 60 or $70,000 in order to do renovations and repairs and things of that sort. In order to get a loan, you could do a traditional loan through a bank or something like that, but a lot of people will opt for hard money loans. So it's a really short-term loan. typically it's higher interest. And so I had an opportunity to do two hard money loans. One was for 30,000, the other was for 70,000. But I didn't have the cash that I wanted to use to do the second hard money loan. So that's why I pulled out the margin. But the difference between how much my margin loan was versus the hard money loan was about 25% interest. And the thing that's crazy with that is I'm on the title for the house. So if the person that has the hard money loan defaults and they can't pay me back, I get the property, which is valued at like $300,000.
Oh shit. Okay. Damn. That'd be a come up, but that would suck for them.
Yeah. Worst case scenario is still isn't too bad, which is
yeah,
is
you're
nice.
pretty, safe in that.
Yeah, I'm definitely trying to mitigate the amount of risk that I have. So for you, you've obviously been focusing on crypto. I want to dive into e-com and stuff in a second, but with crypto, what's it been like? Because I was in crypto. I had money in Anchor protocol, which was the whole UST thing.
Oh
Yeah, so
no.
I had 30 grand in Anchor. I had 80 grand in BlockFi, and then I had about 20 grand in Celsius. And I pulled out all that money. I pulled it all out a week before the whole Anchor thing happened. So
Nice, dude.
and the only reason I did that was just to go through and start paying some other debt down. So I was like, okay, let me pay this down real quick.
Yeah.
And then everything just started exploding with Anchor. So
Dude,
I'm like,
that's beautiful. That's serendipity right there, dude. You had somebody watching out.
oh, for sure. But that scared me with crypto, to be honest,
Yeah.
because I've always kind of just done like stable coins, try to earn interest, do a little bit of staking. What are your thoughts on crypto right now? Like, are you investing still, or are you kind of just out of the game altogether?
No, that's a good question. So the way I see it, yeah, this really showed that stable coins are not necessarily very stable. Yeah. So to me, like, that makes me like, I mean, that this may sound dumb, but in my head, that makes me think that the other stuff is less risky. Like, okay, if a stable coin is risky, then why not invest in like Solana or like Avalanche, these things that like actually have potential use cases and like existing use cases, right? I mean, so do stable coins, but you're not like, you're earning a little bit of percentage interest on that, but you're not going to capitalize on the gains of like Solana if the bull run comes back. So and I mentioned Solana because that's one that I'm right now like averaging into, because I see a huge upside. And other than that, though, like I'm just watching the crypto space. I just know that it's gonna be the future, and like that hasn't changed. Like people are scared, and some companies are going under, like Celsius, the Anchor protocol Luna thing. I had like 20K in Luna, and it's literally worth like $1 now. So that was pretty painful.
This is great.
Yeah, but that sucks. But like everything, like Bitcoin, for example, that made me a lot of money. Like when the bull run was happening, it like was crazy.
You bought in early too with Bitcoin.
Yeah, for sure. And like now we're seeing prices like insanely low compared to then. Yet the whole political landscape, everything, it's all kind of setting the stage for Bitcoin. So I don't know. I'm not too concerned about it. I'm still playing the long game. But like I said, now I'm thinking, okay, I'm not going to invest my entire net worth into anything. But I'm just trying to, still capitalize on the opportunity because we're young, like we have 10 years of like, okay, let's say we invest 100 grand into this. Like that's not going to cripple us, right? But if in 10 years, that's like 100x, what's that, like
crazy.
10 million?
I don't know, man.
I think that's 10 million. So like that's kind of how I'm thinking of it. I just think the upside is huge. The technology is amazing. And with a global economy and like globalization and the digitalization of everything, I just think it makes so much sense. So, and that hasn't changed. The only thing that's changed is the hype. People are scared, so the price is low,
Right.
So that's kind of my thoughts on crypto. But like, again, I'm still trying to focus mostly, like almost entirely on like e-commerce because I still see e-commerce as a huge opportunity, even though there's big players, obviously. There's also new brands popping up that do pop off. That was another one of my topics that I had on here is WNFT, NRS marketing and how they made $1 million a month, or how they're making $1 million a month. And what that is I actually made a video about it
right
yesterday. It's called We're Not Really Strangers. It's just a card game, bro. It's like literally a card game.
Yep.
So it's, it's not the most revolutionizing thing in the world, but what they did that's so amazing is that they created a marketing strategy that doesn't rely on ads, that is, super appealing. So basically what they do, to give you a summary, is like they started on Instagram, and they post these like super aesthetic quotes that are kind of like signs, like a sign out in the city that says like, you are worth it. That's not like exactly what it is, right? Like it's actually deeper than that. But you kind of get the idea. So that's sort of what they do. And they've been able to do it in such a good way that it gets so much engagement. It's so viral. People get so much out of it. They look at posts like that and they're like, they feel a little bit better. I mean, and in these times where like everything is so hectic, this like breath of fresh air is kind of nice. That's kind of what the brand is in a way. And they just, build this card game to help people connect better. So it solves a super deep problem with a really simple fucking solution. I don't know, like what I see in e-commerce, like there's huge opportunity if you can just be creative. So, I mean, as always, I think creativity like is gonna continue to reign supreme, and like,
creativity definitely wins. I think it's one of the higher value skill sets that you could have. I just want to chime in on two things with this. One, I love the marketing strategy of just posting like valuable quotes and then getting it to be like pretty viral. I feel like that's a hard thing to get going, but I've seen a couple of brands do this really well. I'll have to look at these guys' Instagram. But have you ever heard of Mentality?
Yeah, I think so. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so my buddy Jason owns that brand, and basically, from what I understand, their marketing strategy is just posting like these motivational, inspirational quotes, and then people will share it all over their stories, and they have a massive following on Instagram, and they've also built some up on like TikTok and things like that too. But I think that's such an interesting strategy because it's obviously like really low cost, and if you can hit it at the right time, the margins on that just have to be insane. The second thing that I was going to mention is we have a couple of these customers that are like game style brands where they do like card games and things like that.
Yeah.
And it's so appealing to me because it's immediately something that's just unique. Like if you create a card game or anything like that, people can't really create the same exact thing. Like with drop shipping, they could just go and sell the same exact product, but if you create something like this, it's yours and you own it. And I just love that separation.
Yeah, that's so true. That's like an instant way to make a unique product. Yeah, man. And I think something that we can take away too from their marketing strategy is obviously not, so this is what most people do. I think they see that and they're getting like 500K likes on a post. Like, that's fucking crazy. I'm going to do the same thing. That's fine. But like, you gotta, that's what I'm saying. Like if people can just use a little bit of creativity with these times and like take it a step further, like the idea is to grab these ideas and take it a step further, like that's what progress is. It's like we're taking the ideas from the past that worked and then we're like adding a step forward. That's kind of what card games, I agree that that's such a good market because it's simple shit that like was super fun in the past that still is fun till this day if you actually take the time to like play games. Good way to connect with people. It just needs like a rebranding. So if people can take away like, from some of the quotes that brand that I mentioned is posting, like something that they could do is, use TikTok more and like maybe do the same quote style, but in a TikTok video. That's actually something that they're doing as well. Because these guys are like fucking geniuses and they're like ahead of the trends. But you know what I'm saying? Like, so instead of posting quotes, maybe posting Instagram reels of a quote and it's like, some aesthetic background. I don't know. Just taking it like a step further, making it unique to your brand. That's how you're going to pop off. It's not just by like literally copying what's going on. Like copy the idea, but then make it your own. And that's going to be huge.
One of the things that I think is interesting, you had just mentioned it, is how some people are leveraging the algorithm really well. Because, so for the reason that Instagram came out with Reels is because they have TikTok as a competitor, and they're trying to make sure that TikTok doesn't take up too much of the market share. So they're trying to compete with that feature and say, okay, like we could make something that's similar. YouTube did the same thing with YouTube Shorts. And so whenever they come out with these new features, the first thought that I always have is, okay, this is a threat to their business. And because it's a threat to their business, they're going to push the reach on these specific features higher than they would with their other features. And so I'm seeing so many people take advantage of YouTube Shorts and also take advantage of Instagram Reels because the reach is just so much higher than these other, typical features that, Instagram has, like a post on the feed. One thing that I think is interesting that I've seen a couple of big players start to do is instead of posting a regular picture on their feed, they'll make their picture a video and post it to a reel. And you just see so much more reach through that. So they're creating the same content, but making it as a video instead. And they're just getting so much more from it.
Yeah, that's such a good idea, bro. So little things like that make me that's why I feel pretty optimistic about e-commerce and just like online business in general, because that's a thing right now is like Instagram Reels, like Instagram story format content, vertical content on YouTube as well, like YouTube Shorts. They're pushing the same thing. And there's going to be another thing in the future. You know what I mean? Like there's always going to be a new thing that you can capitalize on. You just have to keep your eye open, be creative, and there you go. And stick to something also. I feel like you got to stick to something for long enough to see it through, especially if you're trying to build like a social media presence. I think you need time to build like this recognizable brand. And that's kind of what we'll see. Well, I'm putting it to the test right now with Netsphere, right? Like that's what we're doing. If you saw it a little bit, but we're posting a lot of content and just trying to build a recognizable style. That when somebody sees it, they're like, oh, Netsphere, or like even in the back of their mind. So it's, man, we'll see how it works. I'm trying to, put it to the test for real and see how we can innovate in that. But I think it's exciting.
I was just going to say, I feel like branding is becoming more and more of a big thing, because whenever we first started in e-commerce, we started around similar times, like 2017, 2018. Before it was kind of just like, okay, copywriting and like get the right product in front of the right eyes. But I feel like I'm starting to see much more of a transition towards like branding and really creating an experience. And I heard this the other day, that there's kind of like different economies that we go through. So at one point we were like in an agricultural economy where like if you wanted to make a cake, you had to like either grow it or go like down to the market and like buy all the different things and then make the cake. Then we went to more of like an industrial economy where like Betty Crocker came out and she had, her little boxes that you could buy and it was already pre-made, and you add water and oil and eggs and you're good to go. And then we went to more of like a consumer economy where you could go and actually purchase a cake from like a bakery. I feel like we're transitioning into like an experience economy where whenever you buy the cake, it has to be more of an experience on top of it. And I feel like we're seeing that in interesting ways kind of play out. I was talking with one of my buddies yesterday, and he told me something. I want to get your thoughts on this. So a really well-known Shopify app, I don't want to say it because I don't know if it's like a secret thing, but a really well-known Shopify app, they have a program for their highest level clients, which basically is like the people that are generating the most amount of revenue. What they did is they created an event where they said, hey, we're going to invite 10 or 15 UGC creators. And then these UGC creators, we're going to take them through these different experiences. So that we're going to rent out a yacht. We're going to have a penthouse. We're going to have XYZ, all these different things. And they said, if you want to be a part of this, send us your product. We're going to have videographers and photographers there. And we're going to take some really great content for you. And it's just purely as a bonus. So they're not charging them for this. They're just creating the experience for them, for the UGC creators, and then also for the brands that are part of their app. To just have like a really incredible experience. What's your thoughts on that?
That's so clever, bro. I mean, and that, like, it's not that much extra work for them as well, like to do the content for these brands. But then like the experience is so much, like it's so good. And I'm sure the people that will participate in that will be like, wow, that'll be like memorable. I agree, dude. I think branding is becoming more and more important because of that exact reason, like it creates an experience, and it doesn't necessarily have to be like, the unboxing experience. Like that's what you initially think of, right? But it's deeper than that. It's like how people interact with the brand. Like there's so many things And I think it also helps you build a deeper connection, right? Because then people will identify with a brand, they'll treat it like a friend, or it'll become part of their morning routine, daily routine. I don't know if you saw that Ryan Trahan series, the starting. It was like
No.
oh my god, bro, it was so good. He was like, I was on YouTube. He tried to go from the West Coast to the East Coast with only a penny in 30 days, starting with a penny. It was so good though, and like he daily vlogged it. Like it was a daily vlog. This was like a month ago, and it was like the craziest series on YouTube. It kind of changed the game on YouTube. And what the comments that I saw the most were like, man, I'm gonna miss this like when this is done, because this is part of my daily routine now. Like I love this. This like gets me motivated. It gives me, it like makes me feel good in the morning. I watch this with my, like, people are like, I watch this before work, like every morning with my coffee, like, because the guy Ryan, every morning he would have coffee like from McDonald's for like $1. And people would be like, I'm drinking my coffee like with Ryan, you know. So
That's awesome.
I see people just really looking for these like meaningful connections, and the best way for a business to do that is clearly through branding. So I definitely agree with you on that, bro.
I feel like whenever I see viral content like that, there's two things that I think about whenever I see really like content that just goes absolutely insane and just explodes. So one is that like story aspect where you're kind of seeing this character go through these different obstacles and tribulations and wins as they're kind of moving and navigating through whatever the story is. I feel like that's such a key element. And the second thing that I feel like is really understated a lot of the times, because a lot of people are like, oh yeah, you need to have a story. But the second thing is having stakes. So whenever you have stakes inside of it, like there's something to lose. I feel like it just increases the amount of tension that's in the content, and you can't turn away. So like this guy, he could have just been, I'm going from one side of the country to the other. That could have been the story. But no. He's doing it with $1. So it's like now there's like stakes where it's like, how is he going to do it? And I feel like that's why a penny. Yeah. Which is even crazier, even crazier. And so, he might as well just started with nothing, but I bet a penny probably, had a better click-through rate. But with a penny, I feel like we saw this trend happen with challenges where it's like 24-hour drop shipping challenge, or there's many versions of that, in all kinds of different areas, even with like competitive food eating. It's like eat a whole gallon of, or drink a whole gallon of milk challenge or something, and so these challenges, I feel like just kind of like increase the stakes and make it so it's like there's something to lose. Like Beheza is somebody that I think is really interesting, because the way that he's mastered content is really different, because he says, okay, I'm going to do this drop shipping challenge, and if I don't hit $1,000, I'm shaving my head. So I think he understands that like idea of, okay, there has to be stakes and something to lose, because if there is, people are going to watch all the way through to see what happens.
Damn. So that's so true. What are some ways that you could think of like that brands could apply this, right? Because I mean, brands are looking for any way to, grow. And I feel like this actually could be a good way, like adding stakes into some area of their business. Like maybe that's why like money back guarantees that are like really crazy work well. Like if you don't like it, like when you open it, we'll give you your money back. Like the crazier you can make it, maybe the better your conversion rates will be. Like that's something I'm thinking about.
Yeah, I think from an offer standpoint, you could do things like guarantees. One thing that's kind of similar, I would say, is just adding an element of scarcity or urgency. So urgency is really tied to time. So like, this is going to be available for X amount of days, where scarcity is really tied to quantity. So it's a certain amount of units that are available. And I think whenever you pull on those two levers, you see so much of human behavior just coming out. It's so interesting. We have this process that whenever we do a new product launch, the way that we do it at a very basic level is, and I'll actually give you an example because I feel like it'll be more useful. We had this one client, they came to us with a $60 product, and they launched it, and they didn't have a promotion time frame. They said, hey guys, we're launching this new product, come and get it. That was basically the offer. And they had an unlimited supply, and that was it. And they came to me 5 months after launching that. And they're like, hey, we want to launch this new product. We haven't been able to get it to work. Do you have any ideas on what we could do? And so I looked at the offer and I was like, okay, well, number one, let's go through and add a couple of things. So we added a guarantee. So we kind of increase, I guess, the stakes in that sense. And then we added on a couple of bonuses. And then I tripled the price. So I made it from about like $59 to $160. So that was the second thing, because whenever you pay more for things, people value it more. And it's like, it's the weirdest thing.
Yeah.
Like I have a book called Breakthrough Advertising that I bought. I bought it for 100.
I need to read that. I've
Dude,
heard of
it's
it.
so good. So good. It's like from the godfather of marketing. There's so many like principles that are there. It's a really good book, but it's like $150. It's really expensive. But whenever I bought that book, my level of excitement when it came in was 10 times higher than any book that I bought for $10 or $15. And I feel
Wow.
like that was purely tied to the amount that I paid for it because I valued it more. And so, yeah, we tripled the price. And then the second thing that we did is we added a time constraint, which said that this is only available for 3 days. And then we added a quantity constraint, which we said there's only 100 units. And by doing those three changes, they sold out in that 3 days. And so I feel like if you just make those little changes to the offer, it'll do a lot better. But I think the
Wow.
place that I could see stakes working the best is going to be is going to really be inside of content. I feel like it's just such an easy way for you to go through and ramp up content and make it a lot more interesting and valuable.
Yeah, that's true. Wow, dude, that actually reinforces the like how important offers are. I think that's something a lot of people don't think about, especially like people who watch my channel or watch your channel or in like drop shipping and e-commerce in general. It's like testing new offers as opposed to always necessarily testing like a new product, maybe, like I think a lot of people get, hyped on testing a new product all the time and like end up losing a lot of money, where maybe if you just pivot and switch offers, around, or before you launching, trying to think of like the best possible offer you can make,
Right.
that could set you apart from 99% of the competition.
Right. Is there any offers that kind of come to mind for you where you're just like, this is incredibly interesting? I have two that I can think of.
One that is interesting to me is for like a really low ticket product, for example, like a food product or like a drink, like a beverage. Because obviously with things like that, you kind of want to try it, right? So buying it online, there's like friction. But I've seen brands in the past, and this appealed to me a bit, saying things like, try it for free, just pay shipping. So it's a free plus
Right.
shipping offer, but which is like, if you know anything about drop shipping, that was like huge back in the day, like insanely
Massive,
big.
yeah.
And it worked so well because of the word free. It's just so powerful. Yet, people are applying that to brands now, like when it makes sense, obviously. So doing, let's say, try it for free, try like 3 bars for free, just pay shipping. The shipping will maybe be like $6. That's not a terrible shipping price. The bars will probably cost like $1 each, and then the shipping $3. If you have Shopify, and if it's like within the US, you broke even. Like you're breaking even off of them buying your product. Basically, they think they're gonna get it for free, which they do. They're just kind of helping you out with the shipping cost. So I really like that offer because you're getting so many customers that way. You're breaking even, and it just seems like a no-brainer offer to me.
Yeah, which is definitely what you want. I think that's a really good use case of creating a compelling offer. And I think a lot of the times when I see people that are just getting started in the e-commerce world, they don't test offers enough. There's two that I could think of that I think are also really interesting. One is creating digital products, and I feel like we're starting to see this trend more and more. But an example of a digital product would be, BlendJet, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like BlendJet, one thing that they could do, and they might already do this, I don't know. One thing that they could do is obviously have like the guarantee and maybe even have a discount, which is all part of their offer. But then they could add a bonus that would be like 15 recipes that you could use. So they like will create like a digital ebook that then gets delivered right after you purchase it. So they kind of have this instant gratification that as soon as they bought it, they at least get something.
Yeah.
And then they could use that to then have a better experience with your product. And if you give that bonus the product now becomes better because now they don't have to go through the effort to go through and figure out, okay, what should I make? They already have all these recipes that are already kind of proven and tested and they know are good.
Wow.
So I think that's one instance where you could go through and try to figure out for yourself, is there any layer of a digital product that I can go through and integrate into my brand? There's a lot of instances of that. The second one that I think is really interesting, I have this listed on our sheet, is Crumble Cookies. Do you know what Crumble Cookies is?
I do. And you've told me about this. So go ahead and share it because this is super interesting.
So Crumble Cookies, for those that don't know, dude, I love this brand. And as soon as I went into the place, because it's a physical store, whenever you go, it just pay attention to the offer and really look at like the excitement that a lot of people have whenever they go. Because it just floored me when I figured out like, oh, this is how they're running their business.
Do they sell
So
shit online too, by the way? Just curious.
I know that you could order online.
Okay,
I don't know if they like ship the cookies. Maybe
Okay, yeah.
that'd be kind of cool.
And then
But
how much do you think they make? Like,
dude, they have to be making a ton. They're one of the fastest growing companies in the US right now. And I'm surprised that more companies aren't structured the way that they are. So basically, the way that they work is they have a very simple menu, which a pretty common thing that you'll see is people will overcomplicate their product line. And so they have like hundreds of SKUs when it's not at all necessary. The majority of the time, like 80% of their sales is made on like one, maybe 5 products. And so, they have a very simple menu. It's only 6 items. And then with that, 4 of those items change weekly. So they have 2 that are consistently on the menu, which is like a sugar cookie and a chocolate chip cookie. But then the other 4 cookies, they rotate. So every single week, they switch what the cookies are. And the reason that I think that's interesting is because I've seen it personally with people that I know, like family, friends, or whatever, where they go there and they learn that it's like, oh, every single week it changes, which again, that's a really good example of raising the stakes. If you don't buy now, you don't know when you're going to be able to get that cookie again. So if you love cheesecake and they make a cheesecake cookie, you're going to be like, oh, I have to go, because if I don't get it today, when else am I going to get it? And who knows when it's coming back? Like me, I love cereal. And they had a week where it was all like cereal, where they had like Captain Crunch and, Fruit Loops and all these different things.
yeah.
And so every single week their menu rotates and they're just providing different cookies over and over and over again. And what I think that does is 2 things. One is whenever you go and purchase, you want to try different types of cookies, which I feel like just increases the amount of people, the amount of usage. It encourages different types of palettes and different types of tastes, which then says, okay, cool. Like if they try a lot of different cookies, now they're going to have more of an experience working with us. Sorry, I'm getting a call. Get experience more of the menu, which increases the amount that they have of liking it. But then the second thing is whenever they leave, if they look at the menu again, they will go back because they see one cookie that they like. And so it increases the retention week over week, because whenever I've seen people go, they don't just go once.
Yeah.
They go like 6 weeks in a row because they know that if they don't get it now, it's going to be gone forever.
Dude, that is so clever. And with something like that, like I could see a really solid like paid ad strategy being just like straight up, running local ads like at super low budgets with just like the cookie of the week, done, and saying like this week only, boom.
Yeah.
That's going to
and I feel
convert
like
so well.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, even if it's just a reminder, like, oh yeah, I forgot about Crumble. Let me see what they have, and then they go and look. And I feel like we could see so many e-commerce brands doing a similar thing. I was just talking to somebody yesterday that has a canvas company. So they like create different canvases that are like motivational quotes and things like that. And one of the things that I mentioned to them was, kind of following this business model of doing limited time drops, where they do a drop for a week and it's like a new design, and then they limit it for that week. So if you don't get it, then it's gone forever. And it just increases the amount of value for that drop, because once it's gone, it's, you can't get it.
Are you guys doing email marketing for them, or you just know them?
We're talking about doing email marketing. We haven't signed them as a client yet.
Sick. Yeah, that's so cool, man. Email marketing is like one of those things that I think a lot of people overlook. I mean, I know a lot of people overlook, but it's so powerful when done right.
Yeah, 100%. It's something that's not sexy, and that's why a lot of people just don't focus on it.
Right. Which is dumb, because like money is great, right? Like these brands want to make money, and yet they're not running email marketing. And that's like it's like running retargeting on Facebook, it's like such a low hanging fruit, right?
Yeah, the reason that I love it is, one, it makes ads more effective, because if you drive 1,000 people to your website and 10% of them convert, that's great, which is like, obviously that's like an insane conversion rate, but let's just say 10% of them convert for easy math. 100 of those people are now buyers, but the other 900 are not buyers. But you could get them on your email list and hit them up whenever you have a new product. You could do it whenever there's Black Friday, Cyber Monday. If they came to the website, they at least showed some level of interest, enough to stop their day and go look at the website. And so getting people on an email list is just it's like a pool of people that you could just consistently dip into over and over again. And that's one reason that I love it. The second reason that I love it is because whenever I've seen brands sell, because a few of our clients that are bigger, whenever they build it up to a certain point, they kind of just want to get acquired and move on to the next thing, which is great. And whenever I've seen brands sell, one of the bigger assets that they have is their email and SMS list. Because whenever you have that list, you don't have to pay any additional advertising in order to make money. It's already kind of built in that if you send an email, if it historically makes $3,000 or $4,000, you already kind of have a money machine straight out of the gate that you could just send them an email and make that money.
Wow, that's crazy. So what would you say is like the ratio of like how much money a brand makes per month versus how much of that will be email? So let's say for easy math, like a brand is doing 100K a month. How much of that is from the email marketing money printer?
Right. That's a good question. So there are a couple of variables that I will say. One is going to be the amount of automations that you have built out. And then the second one is going to be the size of your list. So the longer that you've been in business, the bigger that your list will be, which will make it so that you could kind of dip into a larger pool of people and you'll obviously get better results. The first one was the automations, which is basically just building out different customer journeys. Because whenever somebody's navigating through a website, not everybody takes the same path. Some people might look at a product, go look at a bunch of other products, find one they like, and it's sold out. In that instance, you could create an automation that says, oh, it's sold out. Well, we're going to remind them whenever it gets back in stock. So there's all these little unique journeys that you could build out. So the volume of the automations and kind of segmenting those journeys is going to be a big part of that too. But just kind of for general guidelines, I would say an okay percentage from email alone, not including SMS, will be about 15%. That's okay. That means you're kind of like, you have some customer journeys built out. Maybe you're sending a campaign, maybe 2 a week. What we see on the like more average end of things is going to be about 30%. Right now, between email and SMS, our average is 36% of the total store's revenue. But I would say for most people, it's going to be right around 30%. So that's kind of like the range that I'd be aiming for, which when you think about that, if you're making $100,000 and you make an extra 30, that's a good amount of your ad spend coming back to you for not really doing any additional work.
And you know what? I think something that, I don't know if you know about this, but it works differently in other countries too. Because for example, I was talking to this guy from Chile the other day who's like, we got connected through Luke, actually Luke Belmar, he connected us, which was super cool. This guy's like a huge e-com guy in Chile only. And we were talking about like, ideas and, what maybe working together someday, whatever. Because I'm from Chile too. So it's kind of an interesting dynamic. And he told me that I was like, yeah, with emails, usually like 15-20% open rates. I mean, I don't know if that's probably pretty bad. But let's say that's like average. He was saying like, bro, here in Chile, like the open rates are like 60%. Like every email I send is like 60% because brands just are not caught up yet. So for anyone watching this, like in a different country, which I 100% know somebody from a different country is going to be watching this, like there's a big opportunity there for sure.
Yeah, I definitely agree. It is interesting how different demographics react to email marketing versus SMS. So like, for example, one that's kind of like within the US is we'll see a difference on how a Facebook brand, a brand that's majority on Facebook, how their audience will react versus TikTok. Because with TikTok, SMS is a much larger portion of our strategy than it is with a Facebook brand. Email will do better with a Facebook brand. Typically, that's what we've seen. And then even within that, there's different age groups that do really well. So we work with a hearing aid company right now, and their emails are insane. It's nuts. They do, I actually probably shouldn't say the exact amount, but it's 7 figures a month. They're a decent sized brand. And with them, their open rates, their click-through rates, and their purchase rates on email is nuts, but their SMS doesn't really hit that much. It's like 2-3% of their revenue. And so yeah, it's interesting how that works. I will say for the different countries, there's also, you know, different segments there too. We see some countries that crush and some not as much. And so it's definitely an interesting mode. I want to dive into something that's completely like left field, but it's sitting on my dock, and I'm like, man, this is I really want to talk about it. I want to get your thoughts. Tate.
Oh.
Tate is an interesting dude. So I'll kind of preface it, and then I want to get your thoughts. Tate is somebody, I think his first name's Andrew. Is that right?
Andrew Tate. Yeah. Cobra Tate.
Yeah. So Cobra Tate. So this dude is a former kickboxer that has transitioned into marketing guru of sorts. And I hadn't heard of this dude like 2-3 months ago, and now I can't get away from him. Literally every platform I go on, whether it's Twitter, TikTok, YouTube, he is freaking everywhere. And from what I could tell, this guy is killing it. I dove a little bit into his marketing strategy. I'll touch on it in a second. But first, I just want to get your thoughts. What do you think of this guy? This guy's insane.
This guy, yeah, man, he's insane. He just popped out of nowhere. But I don't think he actually popped out of nowhere. I think what happened is that, like, he's been doing this shit, but then TikTok came around and, like, he just really capitalized on TikTok. And I think he's just a really smart guy. Like, beyond anything, like, I'm talking about, like, strategy here. I'm not talking about his views and shit, because I think a lot of the stuff he says is like just sensational. You know, he's trying to like draw a crowd. Like, do I agree with him? I mean, I agree on some things, you know, like I agree on things regarding like discipline, like hard work, struggle, like how those things actually are good for you and like you need that. And a lot of his business stuff, like I agree with. I don't really agree on the like, you know, stuff about women and, you know, being kind of like property and stuff. I don't know. I think that's a bit outdated. But just judging from purely strategy, and he's super fucking smart. And what I think happened is like he's making these sensational claims, right? Like I think he's a good guy, you know, like, but he's just saying things that are like very over the top, kind of extreme. So it draws a crowd, and then people clip the fuck out of it, you know, like people just clip the fuck out of it. And like, he just went extremely viral. Like, I think he doesn't even have a TikTok account yet. Every time you go on TikTok, you'll see him. So
there he is.
I think that's kind of part of the genius behind it. It's like, you know, if you make big claims, if you can handle your own, you can, and get people kind of behind you, like, man, he has like an army basically, bro, like on TikTok. So purely from a strategy standpoint, I think it's pretty genius.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I was trying to figure out like, okay, how did this guy blow up? Well, I think he's funny. I think he's funny for sure. You know, some of the things he says, I'm like, it's a dumb thing to say, but he is hilarious. I mean, it's just surprising whenever you see somebody that's like that outlandish, because a lot of people that are you know, influencers, will say, because he's definitely, you know, an influencer now. A lot of them kind of walk on eggshells because they don't want to say the wrong thing to get canceled, where this guy just has a complete disregard for it. And we've seen other characters that are like this, like Conor McGregor or Donald Trump, where they're just so outspoken and they just say the craziest things. And I think Donald Trump is the person that says this, that you want to be very, you know, divisive. You want to have, two different sides, because the people that hate you, they're going to talk about you a ton. And then the people that love you are like your strongest supporters. And that's really what I feel like we're seeing here. And I was trying to like boil down, like, okay, what is this guy doing? Like, if there was we'll call it the Cobra Tate formula. If there was a Cobra Tate formula to try to replicate this, is there anything there? And I think there is.
For sure.
When I was looking at it, the first step is kind of what you were mentioning, which is being the most extreme version of yourself. Whenever we look at certain characters like Conor McGregor, there's always people that come after them that try to replicate them. And then they end up kind of, to me, looking like clowns, because they do this thing, and it's like they're just trying to be a knockoff version, and they end up looking like, a generic version of Conor McGregor. And Tate is kind of like McGregor, but he's like really just himself at the most extreme version. So like whatever your character traits are, if you really dive into the most extreme version of them, that'd be like step number one. And then step number two is the marketing strategy that he has, which is number one, create a ton of really conversational and controversial content that's going to like, either get people to be like, this guy's amazing or this guy's an idiot, and just really ramp up the engagement. Step number two is allow people, anybody you want, to cut up your content and allow them the ability to repost it. I've seen creators where whenever people repost their content, they try to get them taken down. And it's like, what are you doing? This is like, that's great. That's free marketing. Do it. So he's allowing people to use this content of him over and over again. And then the third step is the way that he has his business set up, Hustlers University, which I thought was really interesting. And this is kind of just a theory. I don't know. I was trying to piece it together, but the way that he has Hustler University set up, from what I've seen on these TikTok pages, is he's giving them an affiliate deal whenever somebody buys his program. So I would imagine that these people that are reposting his content, he's giving them a way to monetize his content for him.
I thought
that was just genius.
Yeah, that's a big layer within this, is that as he explodes, he's making more money because these people are pushing his programs. And that's exactly why I think he's purposely, sensational in his claims. And like you said, kind of like what Donald Trump does, is like, I think they're purposely saying things that can get them canceled, and obviously don't care because they're going to make a shit ton of money on it because, and ultimately, like I said, my opinion is that I think he is a good guy. I think he actually does have like a good heart, and like he wants to make the world better. And he's willing to say whatever to just kind of get more eyeballs, and like, I don't know. I think it's kind of smart, and it's clearly working. He's making a shit ton of money from it, and everybody's talking about him. So like, he did it. Like, that's all I can really say about it.
He made it happen. Yeah. That's for sure. Where do you want to go from here? We have a few more topics that we haven't touched on. Is there anything specific that you want to touch on?
Sure. Last thing I want to say about that is that I liked what you said about how like when people try to replicate that, it's just very cringe. So when looking at something like that again, and it kind of goes back to how we started talking about, or other stuff we've talked about, is like, don't try to copy this guy, like, or how he is. Like, just don't do it. I don't think it's wise. It's probably not gonna work out the same way for you. So don't do it. Just be yourself, man. Like, I think that's what you got to do. Be yourself. Be unapologetic about your views. Like, if you believe on something and you're like informed on it, don't worry. But yeah, just
totally agree.
What you should take away is like the strategy behind it rather than like the person behind it. That's just the last thing I wanted to say. But the next thing I wanted to talk about is a little bit different. So I have this on my list. It's the last thing I have on here, is Amazon made me buy it ads on TikTok by Amazon. So WTF question mark. That's what I wrote on here. And that's something I saw the other day, as I saw an ad that literally was, everybody knows about the like TikTok made me buy it, Amazon made me buy it trend. So Amazon obviously came saw that, and now they're running ads on TikTok that say Amazon made me buy it, and it's literally Amazon running these ads, and they're showing products and leading them to Amazon. So I thought that was super clever, and it just showed me, I've never seen an Amazon ad outside of TikTok personally. Like, that was the first time I ever saw an Amazon ad. So it shocked me. I was like, whoa, this is actually like an Amazon ad. I thought only drop shipping people were saying like TikTok made me buy it, or like e-commerce people. So I think it just says a lot about the state of TikTok ads and how much of an opportunity it really is, if even Amazon is now starting to capitalize on it from the paid media side.
Yeah, you definitely have to pay attention to what the big players are doing. Amazon spent a ton of money on ads. In the early 2000s, they were the biggest spender on Google ads.
Really?
They were the person that was like really dominating Google. Yeah.
I did not
know.
And
so, and they were early to that trend. And so if you're seeing somebody like Amazon start to dump money into TikTok, that should be a pretty strong indicator that maybe I should be on that as well. So I think it's interesting that they're kind of making that pivot. And the thing that I like is the angle of the ad. Because what I've seen from so many brands is they have a certain standard that they're unwavering on. So if they are a really aesthetic brand or whatever, they don't want to lean into the trends or the game of doing whatever is viral on ad content. And so the fact that Amazon, one of the biggest companies on the face of the planet, they're playing the game and they're creating the content that people know, or they know that people want. It should be a testament to these other brands and get them to pay attention. Like, hey, I know that you want to be aesthetic, but just really cleaned up cinematic content is not going to work on TikTok. You have to play the game. And so I love that they don't have like the ego to be like, oh, well, we're Amazon, we're the biggest company. No. They're going to lean into what everybody else is doing and blend in and convert from that. I'm sure that ad's doing well.
Oh yeah. It had so much engagement, and that also is a testament to the power of creatives. Like, you should be testing things and seeing what works and just riding that out. Like, as opposed to, like you said, trying to paint this perfect image. It's not really going to be an effective way to spend your money on ads nowadays, especially when there's, a ton, like literally millions of brands running ads. You're going to get just drowned out. So you got to be testing, figuring, trying new things out, trying trends, trying what big brands are doing, what a small brand is doing. It doesn't matter. Just testing new things out, especially on the creative side, is huge. Oh yeah, another thing I wanted to mention, something I did actually for one of our clients on the paid media side, which was really interesting, was we ran a lead generation. So, for some context, this is an e-commerce brand, physical products, running Facebook ads. And what we did is, I saw that they had a pretty fire email list, right? Like, they were actually doing so well on emails because they have such a good community. Like, their community is insane. The brand is like really niche down, but they're doing super, super well. And I noticed, I was like, hey, what's your cost per, or not your cost, your revenue per recipient on like your newsletter campaign or something, or like your welcome campaign? And they're like, oh, it's like 90 cents or something. It's something like that. Which is really good, right?
Yeah, it's high. It's
okay.
Good.
And then, so I was like, okay, well, something we could try is running a lead gen campaign to try to see if we can get people signed up, like on a giveaway to the welcome series, let's say. Off of just straight up lead generation paid ads. And if we get like, let's say like a 70-cent cost per lead click or cost per lead, like, you're chilling, or cost per sign up, like, you technically will make money on that. So we've been running that, and what's been working super well off of that is that we're getting like really cheap cost per clicks on the site. So we're getting more site visitors that are then not only building up the email list and converting through email, but it's also making the retargeting go crazy. Like, it's making the retargeting do super well because we're getting more site visitors that are relevant and then hitting them with ads on the retargeting side. So I just wanted to tell you about that because I thought it was like a creative strategy that I think maybe, we could pair well together someday.
Yeah, no, 100%. So you said you were running that on TikTok ads, correct?
This is Facebook ads, but I'm sure, like you Facebook said, ads. I think it would hit on TikTok. You could apply this to SMS, probably, like to really anything.
Yeah, one of the things that I always think about, because I've had a few clients run things that are kind of similar or do giveaways or something like that to build up their email. The thing that I always am concerned with in that instance is drowning out the quality. But it sounds like it's converting and it's actually helping the retargeting in other areas where the revenue's at least being taken back, right?
Yeah, exactly. So there's a deeper strategy within that. So I think maybe that's why it works better. I think maybe if it's just that, like you're just running ads to a newsletter and that's it, then it maybe wouldn't do so well. I think also, to be fair, it's the brand. Like, the brand is super unique. Like, there's no other brand like it. And they're just like, they know who they're targeting. They're very niche down. So it's like, I think the brand does play a big factor in this case. But I just love the idea of, testing weird things like that can potentially really benefit your business.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think whenever I hear a brand talk about their strategy, I'm always curious to see if brands have like a testing budget. Is there a certain budget that you've allocated purely towards tests that are just interesting ideas or concepts that you have? And this is something that I implemented for my company this quarter. Every quarter, we do a quarterly review and we talk about what went well for the last quarter, what we're going to do for the next 90 days. And on our last quarterly review, we actually decided to make a testing budget. We're going to only spend about 10 grand a month. Well, not only, but it's, we're going to spend 10 grand a month. Yeah, but and so we're going to spend 10 grand a month purely on testing different ideas to acquire more customers. And I feel like that has to be some portion of your strategy in order for you to stay ahead on the different trends and things that are actually working for other people.
Yeah, man. That's so true. I really want to try something like that out with TikTok and SMS. Like, how are you doing SMS nowadays? Is it through Klaviyo?
No, so Klaviyo's okay on SMS. The reason I don't like Klaviyo is there's two things. One, they're really tight on who they allow you to send to.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to have like a bunch of consent, and there's typically a double opt-in. And so it's just a very high barrier to entry to actually build up the list as quickly as I would like it to be.
Mm-hmm.
And then the second reason why I don't is because of the cost per SMS. So there's so many SMS platforms. There's Attentive, SMS Bump, a gazillion others at this point.
Yeah.
And so what that was kind of like my two criteria is how can I lower the barrier to entry to make it so I can send more SMS? And then the second thing was how to make it as cheap as possible for the clients.
Mm-hmm.
And so what we currently use is SMS Bump. So it's kind of just the OG app
Nice.
for SMS. And that's working really well for us. The way that we build up the list is a little bit unique. So whenever we build a pop-up, there's three ways that we will collect email and SMS. One is going to be in a pop-up, which we could talk about. A lot of brand owners hate pop-ups, but we could talk about that. Second is going to be a newsletter collection at the footer.
Mm-hmm.
And then the third is just going to be inside of the checkout. So those are kind of the three different places that we put it. Whenever we build a pop-up, we make sure that it doesn't show up immediately. So we have three criteria that we'll use, which is a certain time duration, a certain page scroll length. So they have to go through a certain amount of the website before it shows. And then the third one is they have to show exit intent. So those are the three criteria we require for a pop-up. Whenever we develop the pop-up, we make it two steps, which is the first step is email, and we only make it email. One of the biggest mistakes that I see people create on pop-ups all the freaking time is they try to have like 4 or 5 different things that they're asking for. They'll be like, oh, what's your first name? What's your last name? What's your email? What's your SMS?
Yeah.
And then, select one of these options that you want to get emails about. And so that just creates a ton of friction for somebody to sign up for it. It's not easy.
Right.
And so whenever we create pop-ups, we make it so that the first step is email only. And then once they hit submit on their email, it then prompts them with a second step where it says, hey, if the first one was 10%, do you want an additional 5% to if you put in your SMS? So step 1 is 10%, step 2 is 15%. So it kind of gives them a little bit of extra value, and it breaks up the input. So that way we have a higher opt-in rate. Last thing I'm going to mention on it with pop-ups is how we optimize the pop-ups. The order in which you optimize things matters quite a bit. A lot of people are cool with like a 7% opt-in rate, which is fine. Mm-hmm. But a lot of our clients have 15, 18. Our higher clients do like 22% of the people that see the pop-up actually sign up for it, which is crazy.
Wow.
And so the way that we optimize the pop-up is in 3 steps, and I have a little acronym for it. It's not a good acronym. I should have made it a word, but it's OCB. So it's offer, copy, behavior. And so a lot of people will be like, oh, we need to optimize the behavior on when we show this. That's how we do it, because it's like, that's like the mechanical portion of it. But then there's like the more front facing portion, which is the offer. What are you giving them? So is it 10% off? Is it $5 off? Is it free shipping? Is it, whatever it is. So optimizing the offer, because not all offers are the same on our client stores. Sometimes it's 10% off. Sometimes it's a free item. Offers number 1, and then the copy. So basically what we're displaying on the pop-up, and we make the copy super short. Mm-hmm. And then the third one is behavior. And that's basically when we're showing it.
Wow. Have you ever tested just like straight up SMS like collection? How does that do?
Yes. Yeah, it works well. It works well. We'll see the email typically be about like 18, 15%, and then we'll see SMS drop down to about 9, 10% in that 2-step. But whenever we put SMS first, usually we see that just switch where it's, SMS is higher and email's lower.
Interesting. Yeah, SMS sounds like a really interesting platform. Like something I haven't really thought about building like a big SMS list, but it could
Yeah.
be like really, really lucrative. I remember seeing this brand that sold masks, like COVID masks. Maybe you know about it. I did a video on it a while ago. It's like they're from Texas. They do like over 1 million a month, and they just like make these like, just simple masks. And they would do like 50K 100K and like if they send a text to everybody. Like that's crazy. Have you seen stuff like that?
We haven't seen those numbers. That
Yeah.
is insane. That's absolutely nuts. But whenever we send out an SMS campaign, which I will say we don't do all that frequently, because email has, for us, we aim for anywhere from a 20 to 30% open rate. And we like to stay in that range. That's kind of like our golden zone, because if it's too high, that means that we could have sent it to more people. If it's too low, we start to build up a bad reputation and can end up in spam. So email is going to be about 20 to 30% open rates. With SMS, it's 90 plus. So pretty much everybody that you send to is going to open it. And so whenever we do send a campaign, we want to make sure that it's for a good reason. We don't want to just, send out like, hey, just want to remind you guys that we're here. We want it to be like a big sell, a new product offering, something that's actually worth it. And it's pretty regular for us to see, 5 to 10 grand per SMS campaign.
Wow. That's fire still. Like that's so
Yeah,
good.
solid. Yeah,
Wow.
it's solid. And the cost to send it is pretty low too.
That's so interesting, man. There's so many that's what I'm saying. Like that's what I was saying at the beginning. All this recession talk, whatever, like there's so many opportunities all the time, man. Like people get so caught up in the news headlines, but that's the one thing I will say Andrew Tate is right on. Like if you focus and you're disciplined, you're gonna make it. Like
You'll be good.
That's so true.
Yeah, and we're going to see a lot of the players that are competing against us right now in one way or another, whether they're an agency, an e-commerce brand, they're going to drop out just because they can't handle the heat.
Yeah, exactly. All right, man. Well, I think that's a good time to wrap it up. So, we can talk more after. But yeah, thanks everybody for joining. Peace.
All right. Bye, guys.